Everybody doing today? This is your host, Rich from Rich TV Live, and I'm here with a very special guest, the CEO of mCloud, Universal mCloud Corp, Russ McMeekin. How you doing today, Russ?
Hey, Rich, I'm doing great. Doing very good.
Very good. So let's just get started. Let's get right into it. Tell us a brief summary about Universal mCloud Corp and how long you have been with the company.
So I'm one of the co-founders, so I've been there from the beginnings. We sold the company to Yokogawa Electric, and literally weeks afterwards, we took a similar playbook. They're almost identical playbook today. Now that we announced the oil and gas deal recently, and we invested in mCloud. We started acquiring companies. So I've been there from day one. So from the PowerPoint slide to today.
Wow. And tell us a little bit about the deal with Fulcrum Automation Technologies Limited and what it means for Universal mCloud.
Yeah, so as you probably know, our background actually comes from big oil and gas. We've applied technology on many asset types. mCloud started as a company with big buildings, big wind turbines. Now we're into big oil and gas assets. So it was a very deliberate strategy. It's been there since we defined our go public, if you look at our original filings. We've been working with Fulcrum since December on starting, first of all, with big customers and seeing if they're ready yet for things like industrial IoT and AI. And the specific customers we addressed and we had these discussions with were Exxon, Aramco, Shell, BP.
Wow.
Well, we talked to the big guys, and it's resuming where we came from EKI. If you recall, Tino and I, before we were mCloud, those were all our customers.
Wow.
And we were doing very early versions of data in the cloud through DMZs, secure connectivity. Some of the challenges, Azure was not ready. Microsoft was cloud behind. If you recall, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, it was Amazon, to some degree Google. So a lot of things have happened in 3 years since we left, or we sold our other company, started this one. So the discussions from December till now have been very productive with real people. And in summary, industrial IoT is definitely directly applicable to very critical asset types in the oil and gas industry. So compressor trains, we use hydrogen H2 scan on transformers. Those same H2 scans are used in refineries and will be used in refineries with reformers and hydrogen units. In fact, there are some early applications already being done. So this has been a very deliberate, very surgical approach with the largest players in this space. And if you look at who our customers are in the other vertical markets, in buildings, we have Bank of America, 3,300 branches, connecting to a branch of the largest bank in the world.
Wow.
You need to be very mission critical and secure. That impresses big oil people.
Of course. Absolutely.
Then similarly, our AI is used with Lockheed Martin. That's on the fighter jet program. That impresses big oil people. So it's been a very deliberate strategy and very targeted.
Very good. Now, I was doing some research on your company, and it was said that your company has a potential to grow into a billion-dollar company. Is that realistic? Is that something that you believe?
The answer is yes.
Wow.
We'll take that in two cuts. Billion in market cap.
Wow.
So if you look at a peer company now that we're in oil and gas, Aspen Tech, ticker symbol AZPN, trades at 14 times revenue. It's traditionally been our competitor from my early 20s when I was at Honeywell. That's always been who we've competed with. So that's their multiples. So if you're looking, so let's assume with the addition of Fulcrum now, we were a trailing 12 months, $14 to $15 million company. Most analysts believe, and they're right, that we'll do somewhere around 19 million before Fulcrum. Now you add on Fulcrum and you're now in the low to mid 20s. So now so if you apply 10 times multiple, you're a third the distance there, right? So at 100 million revenue, if you apply even a discount to Aspen Tech's multiple, there's your billion, right? So the answer to your question, is that achievable? Yes. Is it achievable in a reasonable period of time? No. If we were a U.S. traded company using appropriate multiples for a business like we do, I think we'd be a third the distance there, right? So our problem is we're in a peer group or in a sector in Canada where multiples of SaaS are pretty much non-existent. So we got to work our way up the chain.
Okay, very good. Now, how long has Universal mCloud Corp been developing its artificial intelligence technology for the oil and gas sector?
So asset care was always designed for bigger, more critical assets than it was originally applied to. So from its inception, everything it did, how it was designed, was always planned to be applied to, if you look at the original filing, everything, all the assets I just described, so I won't bore you with those assets again. So from the answer is from its inception. So
Wow.
now we're just applying it to, so it's like saying I have a toolbox and I've been building hotels and restaurants, now I'm building a high-rise. Well, it's the same toolbox, it's just a bigger building, right? So the toolbox is defined and designed for big buildings and big refineries and big wind turbines, and that's what we're doing.
That's great. Now, I keep hearing this word artificial intelligence. What is so exciting about this new world of artificial intelligence? What is it really? What is it that makes artificial intelligence so special that everyone wants to get their hands on it right now?
Yeah, so there are two types, well, two macro types, right? And I'll describe why ours isn't that new. It's just because of modern compute, cloud, and cost that we're able to do it cost effectively, very effectively, and distribute it anywhere and everywhere from the cloud. So in our case, the initial principle of how something was built, why it was built, and how it should behave, and the laws of physics around it exist. And so we use things like cognitive learning. We use a lot of methods to, in real time, assess how things are doing. We take predictive actions. We either take direct control or we advise and we improve how it should behave. So that's our approach. I think the kind you're referring to, the new wave, is I don't have a clue what the answer should be. I have many, many MRIs of things. I have technicians who've been collecting at the Mayo Clinic data for decades. What does this all mean? Is there a cure for cancer somewhere in this data? And I have no clue. So we start with no known answer. We use very advanced methods, like Watson at IBM. And in the end, we start finding patterns and methods of behavior, and researchers look at and say, I think there's something here. That's not what we do. So in our case, we use outdoor temperature. We always use something that's very well known and that can never be wrong. To course correct our models, our AI assumptions, we make them better. And the beauty is they don't sleep, they're not unionized, they don't eat, they don't do anything. They keep getting better. Our models get better, they predict better, they predict more accurately, till eventually a GE turbine, our model with its wind blade data and all the data it has, our model is more accurate and knows more about the behavior of that particular turbine at that point in its life and going forward than the original maker of the turbine. So that's what we do. And so that's possible because of things like Azure and modern compute makes it very, very technically effective and very low cost. So that's why the big praise. Now you can apply that to cars and automate cars. Tesla will drive cars on their own as soon as next year. So that's the same approaches. How a car should drive is known. Therefore, all I have to do is use AI to make sure it does it correctly. And that's the approach.
Very good. Very good. And what is Universal mCloud's? I know that you guys just announced some very strong revenue for 2018. Do you have any revenue projections for 2019 or expectations for the company?
So we have two analysts, Maxim here in the U.S., which is who I'm with, I've been with for the last bit, and then in Canada we have Echelon. So their numbers are just under 20. So you add Fulcrum on top of that. The Fulcrum contract's U.S. dollars. There's minimums in it, so I think it's pretty simple math. Take the analyst expectations, add Fulcrum, convert it to Canadian dollars, and we've already started. So it's, even though it's March now, it's not like we just woke up yesterday and started working on Fulcrum. So I think that's a pretty robust picture of what 2019 could look like.
Very good. And is there anything behind the scenes that you guys are working on that you can talk about, or anything?
Not that we can talk about. We're always working on things behind the scenes. The exciting thing, the reason we went public in Canada isn't because we had some aspiration to watch our stock price every day. That was not the reason we did it. We did it to create a currency so we can develop a playbook or execute on a playbook that builds a real big player that's formidable. So we just entered the oil and gas business. There's a lot more cards to be played in that market. The three legs of the stool are now going to be optimized to a much bigger business. And so, yeah, absolutely. We're always working on something. We know this business very well. We know the players in the business very well, and we're very active. And we intend to leverage all of the ability that the TSXV and soon the NASDAQ would provide us as a public company. So we're not sitting still for anything.
So you're planning to move to the NASDAQ?
Yeah, we've announced that last year, a dual listing. We have to work our way to that.
Wow.
We are working, obviously, as every day progresses, we're getting one day closer. hard to handicap when. Obviously, our aspiration would be sometime this year.
Great.
We control a lot of the aspiration. Some of it we don't control. So, but we're working hard and we're focused on that. Absolutely. And we want to be a flagship dual listed company in the AI space, listed in Canada and on the NASDAQ. Absolutely.
Very good. And as an investor, what would, if I was at an investor presentation for your company, what would be some of the key highlights that you would want to kind of let me know as an investor? Obviously, you can't give me any forward-looking statements, but what would be some of the key highlights that, I should know about as an investor that's watching? We have some investors that are watching right now. What should they know about your company?
Well, you just asked me what's the hype about AI, and in my opening remarks, I just rattled off the Fortune 50. So take what you call hype, and I'll just giving you the Fortune 50. You merge those together, and I think it wipes out the notion that this may be hype, right?
Absolutely.
So it's being used every day on every return battle mission of a fighter jet. Obviously, it's not hype; it's real, right? If it's controlling banks, 3,300 of them in the United States of America, or 1,200 Starbucks in California, it's not hype; it's real, and these are real companies doing real things. So I think the key message: I'm sure you attend conferences where you hear hypey things, right? This is not hype, and the people we deal with Exxon and Shell and Aramco in Saudi Arabia, that's the next big target. That's part of our plan in the minimum revenues for this year. We're well on our way there.
Wow.
That's not hype, that's real. So I think the key message you'd walk away with in the whole mix of AI stuff, this is real stuff.
And your share structure? I looked into the share structure and it was actually quite tight. I like that. And as an investor, that's vital. Are you guys working with large institutions that are taking positions in the company? Are there any large debt holders like Canaccord involved, or any bought deal financing within the company that people should be aware of, or anything like that?
There's no debt, so no debt.
Wow.
Whatsoever.
Wow. I love that.
Raymond James is by far, as an institution, or they're not institutional holders. They may have a couple institutional clients, but Raymond James by far is the largest holder, other than ourselves, right? Amongst ourselves, we'll call it the original founders and then the follow-on acquired people who are part of the founding team, if you wish. Between Raymond James and ourselves, that's 2/3 of the company, pretty much, almost.
Wow. So it's very, very, very tightly held.
It's tight and it's smart, if you know what I mean. So
absolutely.
And we do have Canaccord as well. We do have Haywood. We do have Echelon, and then we have some, call it friends of founders that are not in that group that have been there from day one, right? So they live in California, they live in Europe, and they're very, very strategic and they're very well placed. So tight, and then in addition, within that share structure, they're smart. So I would say tight and smart is the way I would look at the cap table. That's probably a reasonable summary.
Now, Russ, we've got some people watching and from all over the world, and if there was anything else that you want to leave them so that they can remember Universal mCloud Corp, what would it be?
Well, they're equity investors, obviously. So I would go do some homework on AspenTech, AZPN, look at that trajectory. They started exactly the way we did, as a NASDAQ IPO back in the 90s. Started off, except there was no cloud. In those days, it was on-premise compute, and it scaled to now a $6 billion company, 12 times revenue. It's a sweetheart. It's a company. It's very smart people. That's what I would use to educate myself on the mCloud story. And I think if you have that as the barometer of what could be, I think you're in pretty good shape. And they're a very transparent sort of company. So there's no real comparable in Canada. AspenTech's the company.
Well, that sounds great, Russ. Well, listen, Russ, thank you very much for joining us today. We wish you all the best of luck. Our entire community will be watching you very, very closely. Anytime there's any news, we'll definitely bring it to our community, and we'd love to have you on our show again, hopefully soon. If you have any big news, we'd love to have you back on Rich TV Live.
Absolutely, we'd love to. We always have good news, so I expect to see you again soon.
Okay, great. Enjoy your weekend. Have yourself a great day, and thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers.